Hi, I'm Trawler Specialist Jeff Merrill, and I'd like to introduce you to my good friend Douglas Cochran.
Jeff and I have teamed up to make a series of videos called The Physics of Docking.
This is episode 9, Dock Lines. In our previous segments, we talked a lot about how to get the boat to the dock. In this segment, we'll discuss how to tie the boat up once we're there. We're going to cover 3 primary subjects: where to position the boat in the slip, how the dock lines will be positioned, and which lines to secure first. These decisions will be affected by the shape of our vessel, so we'll talk about hull shape as well.
I think we should talk a little bit about dock lines, because if we don't have dock lines, we're no longer tied up at the dock. And in my view, there are 3 general types of dock lines. There are spring lines in the middle of the boat, there's a stern line, and there's a bow line. They're usually different lengths. There's different systems. I know on this boat, you've actually put labels on them with which ones are bow lines. I've seen people whip the ends of them with red ends for the ones for the port side and green for the starboard side. What are your thoughts on dock lines?
Well, those are all good ideas, because when you're rigging the boat, you want to make sure that the right lines get in place, in the right places. Otherwise, you throw the bow line to shore and it falls in the water and doesn't reach the dock, or that sort of thing. But in this section, we're also going to talk about what order to put the lines on in, and how to position the boat first, so that you don't end up with the boat all nicely tied up, but the boarding gate won't open because there's a piling right there.
Or the spring line's coming across it or something like that. Yeah,
that's right.
Right.
Or the power line won't reach because the post is too far away. So we'll cover some of those things in this segment.
Great.
We've been talking about dock lines. Let's look at a boat that's rigged up with dock lines. There's essentially 3 lines that hold the boat in place, and there's 2 that keep it from going forwards and backwards. So the first 3 are the stern line, the mid line, and the bow line. Those hold the boat in against the dock. And the spring lines hold it from going, this one keeps it from going backwards, this one keeps it from going forwards. So they're called springs, and you want to make sure those are nice and tight so that the boat can't rock in the slip like this. You don't want it hitting the dock behind us, you don't want it going out in the fairway out there. Now this boat has a pretty straight hull form to it. So if you get your midline on and get your stern line on, the boat is essentially in place. It can't rock around very much once those 2 lines are secured. Then getting a spring line on is obviously the next critical piece. But if we look at a boat that has a lot of curvature to it, like this sailboat back here, you can see that it has a great deal of curvature to its hull shape. So in that case, you're not going to have a row of fenders protecting you from the dock. You're going to have just a couple, and it's going to have the ability, if it's not well secured, to do a lot of rocking back and forth in the slip. So it's a much different kind of a tie-up than we have here.
I want to add a couple of things about the fenders as well. When you know what type of fenders you're going to use and where you're going to position them, you can actually install a fixed point, a pad eye like this. And on the case of this boat, they know the lengths of them, and they have them with clips on them. So they're much easier to add or take off the boat. This was designed so it just drags slightly in the water. Up forward, a lot of trawlers, as Douglas was talking about in the sailboats, there's the curvature that goes in. It's a good idea to have a ball fender, something like this. Some people call it a Dutchman, I'm not sure why, but to help give the boat a little more protection when it's coming up against the dock when you're coming in. You'll also notice that there's a rub rail right down here for coming into the dock and rubbing up against.
So let's talk about a few of the things you can do wrong on a boat when you're coming into a dock. Your deckhand wants to be thinking about the positioning of the boat in the slip. For example, if there was a large piling right here, it wouldn't work very well because you wouldn't be able to open this gate and get on and off the boat. Or if there was a deck box or even the power post here, you'd want to move the boat a few feet one way or the other to make sure that it works. You'll also notice that these spring lines crisscross right in front of the boarding gate, so it's impossible to open the door without a lot of fooling around. So that's
We're restricted here.
Yeah, it's definitely not the preferred way to do it. The other thing you want to look at is positioning your especially your midline and your stern line. Now in this case, if the boat was back another foot, so this line was more straight, and the same thing back here, you see how this line is not very straight, so it's hard to get much traction to hold this up against the dock. And since you're typically wanting to step on and off the boat at the swim platform, that makes it hard to keep that gap tight. So give us a couple of minutes, we'll change the lines around and show you another way to rig this boat.
To point out one other thing here that we have on this boat is a chafe pro, which is essentially some fire hose that's velcroed in place, and that will help prevent the line from chafing either at the hose pipe or on the cleat.
Okay, we've made a couple of changes here. First of all, we moved the boat a couple of feet so it's not on that big piling that we were imagining were here. We've taken the aft spring and run it this way instead of across the door. We've taken the forward spring and run it that way instead of across the door. So now our boarding gate is open. And then the third thing we did is we changed this stern line. It was running this way, which wasn't a very good angle from this cleat, but there's a nice stout cleat right on the transom. So we've hooked to it and we get a much better pull here to pull this swim platform in tight.
Passing dock lines from the boat down to the dock, there's a couple things to think about. I like to have the line all organized and easy to deal with. And if at all possible, I want to make sure that I avoid tossing the line. Douglas is down below, and I'm going to just kind of make a little jump rope where I can swing it over to him. That way, nobody gets hurt, he's got the line, and we're ready to tie off. One thing to make sure you do is instruct your crew about how this all works with the lines, because it could be possible that the line's not attached to the boat. There's a lot to think about on dock lines with bow lines and stern lines and spring lines. When you're coming into a slip, oftentimes a dock neighbor will offer to come by and help, and that's a nice community feeling that you get with people. And when I see someone coming in, I usually get up to help them. But you need to ask them what you can do to help. You don't want to be the person on the dock trying to tell the skipper what to do. You just want to take command. I had a funny situation one time where I wasn't quite prepared as well as I thought I was, and I had someone on the bow and I told them to throw the line to the guy on the dock, and they threw the whole line to the dock and we weren't attached to the boat. So you learn by mistakes. When you are going to pass a line to somebody, I prefer not to throw the line. If possible, I want to hand it to somebody. If someone's on the dock, am I not on the dock, I'll put my arm out and ask them to throw it there so they don't knock me in the face and knock my glass off. There's a lot of little things to think about. What are some of the things that you like to make sure we cover here when we're talking about this?
Well, one rule we had on our boat is you never throw the bow line to anybody until the skipper says so. Okay. Because invariably people on the dock want to help, so they grab the bow line and tie it down tight, and now you're stranded. You can't get your stern in because
right, you're in too tight.
You're in too tight and you can't get your stern in. And with this boat, because it's a long straight side, the most critical thing to do is get the stern in tight because it has a nice big swim platform. That's how the easiest way to get on and off the boat.
Right.
So if we do use somebody to help us on the dock, I usually try to get the minimum number of lines on, thank them very much, and then we go back and retie it all.
Yeah, as long as you get 1 or 2 lines on and the boat is there, you can always fine tune it later. Philosophically, some people like to hand the splice or the loop of the line to someone on the dock because it's pretty easy to throw that over a cleat. Some people prefer to give the bitter end, but then they've got a whole bunch of lines to deal with and they may not know how to cleat it. So there are different choices and things you need to think about.
The best approach, in my opinion, is get your crew working like a team so you don't need anybody on the dock. And if somebody comes along, you say, thank you very much, we got it.
Yeah, that's great. That's good. That's a good play. Good.
Stay tuned for more on dock lines in our next episode. Smooth sailing.
Hi Trawler fans, thank you for watching the JMYS YouTube video channel. I'm fortunate to be offshore again. If you'd like to subscribe to this channel, you can click the button below. We also like to publish other listings and other trawler skills videos. You can click on one of those on the side to watch those. Thank you very much for your thumbs up. We love having you watch our videos. We love putting them together for you, and hope you come back again soon.